different things. So let's try and break these down one at a time. Now, the Bible talks about the rapture.
Yeah.
The rapture is a period where the devil takes over, wrath hits us, and most of the population is wiped out apart from God's chosen few. So let's have your take on that one first.
Well, the rapture concerns this 144,000 people whose names were written in the book from before the beginning of time. Most people that use that number, that keep quoting 144,000, they really haven't read the text properly, because if you read that text in the book of Revelation, it's talking about male Jewish virgins, actually.
Are there any of those?
Words. It says those undefiled by women, and it's talking about one of the 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. So the trouble is with our culture, we're always trying to force fit other information into our own worldview. And I think it's safer in this instance, because if you look back at the history of failed prophecies, they've all been generated from the Bible. And it's very easy to juggle those biblical numbers around and come up with any date you like.
Absolutely.
To support any theory. So I think from my perspective, I try to de-emphasise the biblical stuff, because there's loads of other stuff you don't really need to rely on the Bible.
Well, of course, the Bible code that many have talked about over years, somebody actually said I could get the same code out of Moby Dick, which he then did.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of these things are exaggerated from initial term. But certainly here in Glastonbury, a lot of people are saying they're feeling this change. They're actually feeling an energy change. They're feeling things happening around them. At the same time, we're hearing of more UFO sightings, more people experiencing, I suppose you would say, paranormal activity. It's as if something is actually going on around us, a conscious change.
Yes, I think from the research that I've done, it seems that something about reality is about to go through a transition. I mean, the Hopi people call it an emergence from one world into the next, that process, and they have a sort of ceremony every year in one of these underground chambers called a kiva, with a hole in the floor representing their transition or emergence from the previous world or era into this one. The inside of the chamber represents this world, and the ladder leading out of the chamber represents an umbilical cord leading into the next world. And the whole thing is a kind of rehearsal for the next emergence into the next world, as they all rush up the ladder at the end of that procedure. So, and their myths show that, and again with the Maya myths it's the same, there are previous worlds, or in the Maya would call them suns, and each one shows a progression forward, and like you say, a jumping up in level, a kind of evolutionary progression.
We're also hearing at the moment about peak oil, which is debatable. I spoke to Ian Crane at the conference a couple of weeks ago, who said actually there is no problem with oil. We've got plenty of it, but they're just making too much money. Who knows? Could be right. We're apparently running out of food. Water's getting scarce. Do you think all of these things are coming together intentionally at this period? And could it in fact be a government conspiracy to actually push us into a corner?
Yeah, that's a difficult one. There are lots of conspiracy theories, and there's a lot of reasons for thinking that you're right. But also, once you get on the conspiracy path, it is very easy to see everything around you as a conspiracy. But and then you end up thinking it's all one big conspiracy. But I've seen a documentary recently with somebody, one of these whistleblowers from ex-American military, and he says that actually the truth is that there's not one big Illuminati with one agenda. You've got lots and lots of different groups with different agendas, and that it's actually a lot more complex than most people think. And he also said you'd have to have a massive IQ to ever get your head around the big picture.
Absolutely, I agree with that. Well, I mean, again, if we look at this from a sidestep, perhaps, and sort of say, well, there have been so many prophecies of doom in the past, so many people, I mean, the latest we heard was coming up to the year 2000, the world was going to end, this was going to happen, that was going to happen. This is probably the first one that's actually had some substance, in that different cultures around the world are all choosing that date. But that date, is it actually right? Because by some people's calculations, 2012 by the Mayan calendar would have been around 2020 by ours.
Yes, I have tackled this. In fact, it's one that keeps coming up. But in fact, the Maya end date stands by itself regardless of our calendar, because even if there was in the year 2003 and around there, people were saying